Mayor Williams was unable to attend. She sent her regrets to you, but very thankfully, she was able to send one of her key team members at the City of Harrisburg, Mr. Karl Singleton, is joining us tonight. Karl's name is on the agenda, and his biography is in your packet, so you can learn more about Karl. But what I just wanted to emphasize is that Karl is a community leader and has been in this Harrisburg area for decades. He is out in the community, he's rolling his sleeves up, he's doing projects, and he's absolutely getting things done. Now, as part of the mayor's team, Karl is serving as the Chief Equity and Compliance Officer with the City of Harrisburg. He is here to share some insights, some updates as to what's going on with the city, and will also answer your questions. Please join me in welcoming Karl Singleton.
Thank you again. Appreciate it. Thank you. Well, hello, and thank you for having me. Of course, I'm sure you much rather have the mayor aside from me, but I think standing in her stead is just another show of her commitment to the city with regards to her administration. The position that I currently serve in was a created position, not for Karl Singleton, but a created position for the Williams administration to showcase her commitment to equity and inclusivity. So as I stand here fortunate to fill the position of Chief Equity and Compliance Officer, you know, I owe a debt of gratitude to Mayor Wanda R.D. Williams. With that being said, we know in the Harrisburg region, we can do a whole lot better with regards to equity and inclusion of all. There's been a history of systemic omission and deletion, and those are some of the things that Mayor Williams talked about, not only in her campaign, but certain things that she's lived through, not only on city council for 16 years, but as 12 years as city council president. So most ordinance and bills that were brought before her and our policies and decision-making were predicated upon her making sure that they were fully inclusive of all. With that being said, one of my first charges as we talked was to figure out what we could do as a new administration coming in, and all a lot of individuals saw were this influx of dollars in terms of American Rescue Plan dollars. And you know, so Harrisburg is back, has the opportunity to be thriving, not merely surviving post-COVID. And so opportunities like this to talk about the ARPA funds as well as initiatives internally that are going on are oftentimes welcomed by the Williams administration. So with that being said, what are we doing? One of the things that we've done to ensure that there was going to be full participation with the region, and particularly with community members, was Mayor Williams tasked her administration, in particular her cabinet, with going out and holding public meetings to hear from the public on what they thought the ARPA funds could be utilized for, within reason, of course, of the bounds of Department of Treasury. So having had those meetings, we reached out to a professional services organization to make sure that we fully captured it, the responses from our communities, entire community, not segmented communities, but every part of our community, gathered their feedback, and those thoughts, ideas, questions, and concerns are being summarized as we speak today. So there has not been a draft as of yet, but that draft should be forthcoming within the next month and a half, 2 months, I would say. Another thing that was done was I was tasked personally with doing something around the areas of equity. And so what did I decide to do after having discussion with Mayor Williams was we developed what's called the Equity Roundtable. And what these Equity Roundtables are intended to do was to network with thought leaders, forward thought leaders in the areas of health, education, workforce, and justice and law. And so what we were able to do is go out and engage some individuals locally, nationally, as well as nationally, to come together bi-monthly. The second Tuesday bi-monthly, we come together with Mayor Williams to hold this conversation, and there's roughly 40 of us. In between those bi-monthly meetings, we come together and we host the second Tuesday of the month, we hold committee meetings. So 10:30 in the morning, committee meetings are going on in the spaces that I just named, those 4 areas. And what we have are thought leaders there that are run by co-chairs. And so for workforce development, we have as our co-chair, Ms. Elisa Harris, who's UGI Corporation. For diversity, equity, and inclusion, and for our education equity committee, we have as the chair, and I call them co-chairs, but so chairs of specific committees is for education is Dr. Travis Waters, who of course is a local talent, currently professor, former superintendent at the Stilton High Spire School District. We have Ms. Tina Nixon, of course, superstar, UPMC. She's heading up our health equity committee. And then we have, for our justice and law, we have our brother Sheldon Murray, who is the diversity, equity, inclusion type expert from BHRC formerly to state agencies to now in the Central Pennsylvania Diversity Organization. So those are, I believe, were well-rounded individuals that can lead the charge internally. So it's not necessarily run by the mayor or by me, but they're tasked with having their interpersonal conversations or their compartmentalized conversations as committee members, as committees, I'm sorry, and then we'll come together bi-monthly. And so they're not really segmented. We come together to then have a robust conversation around the thoughts and ideas that they have and or recommendations that they would see the city government utilizing to make sure Harrisburg is truly the leader and forward-thinking entity that the capital city should be. And so that's 2 things that I wanted to highlight today. I don't know exactly how much time I have, but I thought it would be very important for us to have a dialogue. So I don't want to, I know when I sit in a lot of these meetings or sit in those seats, I don't want to be talked to, I want to be talked with, you know? And so I'm here for that. There's no questions off limits. Understand this, if it's something that I know, I'm going to tell you. If it's something that I do not know, I'll research and get back to you. So again, on behalf of the Mayor Wanda R.D. Williams administration, you know, I'd like to thank Leadership Harrisburg for the invite. Hopefully this won't be our last opportunity to engage with you. And if there's ever anything that we can do as an administration to ensure our business community, especially with entrepreneurs and those that are business thought leaders, having you at the table, you're more than welcome, and not just as an afterthought, but a forethought. And so we have a full commitment of making sure our role and what we do is to make sure we serve the masses and not merely the chosen few. So Mayor Wanda Williams is truly one that believes that she is in a position to empower the position and not be empowered by the position. So with that, I will open it up.
We have until 4 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, that's
so
okay.
If you would repeat the question when they're answered for the sake of the videos, yeah, we'll open it up to questions and answers.
Yes, please.
Yep, so you've indicated that you want to improve upon or do things differently than the previous administrations. Have you looked at the past administrations over history, and have you analyzed that, and what will you do differently, or what have you discovered that you need to change to improve upon the diversity and inclusion aspect?
So great question. So the question again, recapping past administrations or looking at past administrations, how have we decided the target in which we're moving towards, in essence, with the current administration? So of course, not being disparaging of other previous administrations, the truth is no one does it like we're going to do it, not we, the administration, but we, those of us in this room, are capable of doing things in the future. So working with the information that we have at hand, one of the main things we thought were important, and let's be honest, we are in a totally different space than any other administration, coming out of COVID, for one. While we understood that there were disparities, for example, in the health and education in the workforce. I mean, it was never in our lifetime pronounced to the degree that it was over these last 2.5 years, to be honest. And so with that, we are privy now to have knowledge, we have focus, and we have resources to really hone in on equity, and not equal, but equity. So, and we all understand the difference between equal and equity, so I won't go into a definition. But what we're doing now is not only inviting people to the table, but hearing about who wants to come to the table. But you can't just come to the table saying you want to be a part of a group. You have to come with ideas, come with resources, come in, and I'm not simply saying resources here, but up here as well, in terms of diversity of thought, diversity of just what type of growth can you help with? So it's not good enough just to verbalize certain things. And so that's a long way around saying, okay, we see a problem. That problem, for example, could be as some people may see as simple as not having lifeguards to open up swimming pools. But that's a major decision that needs to be made from our perspective, because there's many things that goes into getting a lifeguard. And it may sound minuscule, but I want to keep things in a place where we oftentimes come here and talk there and forget about, everything being balanced. And so we can talk about crime, we can talk about education, we can talk about, but if we're not giving individuals things to do, especially our young people, things to do, like a swimming pool, like parks and recs, like having mentors, mentor-protege programs, then the safety of our streets are definitely in jeopardy. The lack of workforce is definitely in jeopardy, and or those that aren't choosing career pathways that they don't see modeled as being relative to them is in jeopardy. And so what are we doing? I'm going to keep going back to our committees. What I think, unlike before, because they didn't have the resources, previous administrations, we're able to not only hear about the needs, wants, and desires of the community currently, but we're actually able to structure policy, practices, and procedures together with this legislative body and have resources to back what it is that we say we want to do for the community based upon what the community says they want done. And so I think, for starters, that's something that differentiates us. And quite honestly, because of the pandemic that we went through and now the resources we have, because of understanding how pronounced those disparities of the past were, now we can, they're documented now, whether it's health or education, or, we saw the broadband, or, the bandwidth, so forth and so on, the disparity in terms of having access to teachers, currently. And I'll speak specifically as an alumni, local Harrisburg High guy, just right now is disheartening. So another thing that we're doing that was not done before for various reasons, not laying any blame, is we have a relationship with the current school district's leadership, the receiver, the superintendent, and the IU that's working with the school district. We have ongoing meetings with them. In fact, there was supposed to be one tomorrow, but we need to postpone that because of scheduling conflicts. And the topic is a comprehensive meeting between the City of Harrisburg School District, City of Harrisburg, and Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, because the city won a grant previously. Burlake Lynch and others had set the track record to win this grant, and so now we have it. And so now this is not about winning it, although that's important. What is the implementation like? Who's going to be at the table? Who's going to be involved? What are the desirable outcomes? Who are the partners? How are we going to have benchmark assessments and really know that what we're doing, what we said we wanted to do, number one, we're doing, and number two, what it is that we said we wanted to do is successful, and how are we defining success? And so to answer your question more in depth, it's benchmark assessments, it's having the resource, identifying the issue and or the needs of our community, having the resources to address them and follow up to ensure that implementation is going well. That's what sets us apart from administrations in the past, one of which I was a part of. Ladies before gentlemen.
President and CEO of Goodwill here in Central PA and our foundation. New to the area, maybe 5-6 months. So this is all very interesting.
You're a veteran now, welcome home.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I feel it. Born and raised in Orleanian by way of Kansas City to get here. Having worked with previous administrations in other large cities, what can nonprofits like Goodwill and other service providers do to help this administration push the envelope on some of those initiatives? Obviously, being leaders in workforce development outside of our social enterprise, there is a major kind of wall coming with the amount of jobs available versus the amount of people that can actually fill them. So what can we do, us leaders in this room that are nonprofits or service providers, help with some of the problems that you see that you need more resources from in order to get it done?
Thank you for that question. So what could nonprofits, business leaders, et cetera, do to ensure that this administration is able to meet the needs, desires of workforce? So first, thank you as a nonprofit, as a fellow nonprofit guy. Thank you for continuing to be here and serve the community with integrity and character. Goodwill has a great name, goes a long way. So no pun intended when we say goodwill, right? So first, continue to do what you do, especially for those that have challenges, developmental disabilities. That is definitely an underserved community. That is definitely a community that we have engaged in our equity roundtable. I almost said the Pennsylvania Developmental Disabilities Council, but they're going to kill me. I can't call. I'm not going to blow the acronym, but I'll come back to it. I'll get it together. But no, I won't, because I'm not even gonna mention her name, because she'll call me if she sees this. She will call me. Like ADA stuff and everything. Well, Karl, really you should have made it more accessible, because there's some people that need it. I was like, well, it was visual. Well, what about the people who are vision impaired? And you're right. So teachable moments. So back to your question, what you can do is continue to do what you're doing, first of all. So we're not coming in as an administration to say, we want you to scrap things. What's working, let's help enhance that. Whatever you're getting on your side in terms of the nonprofit world, especially the nonprofit world, because it really takes that character and integrity and commitment in that nonprofit world to really scrape day to day. No disrespect to any other sectors, but we're going to talk from this perspective right now. So keep, number one, doing what you're doing. It's definitely valued and necessary. The other part is, in terms of your organizational leadership, welcome others in that come from outside the nonprofit world. So with those two things going on, what you can do to help the administration is to share with us those things that you're learning inside of your nonprofit. Share with us those things that we can do from the bully pulpit, if you will, of having the microphone of the top elected office in the city of Harrisburg, to help advocate for you and with you. So let me strike that, not for you, but with you. Because there's a lot going on that we can do together that individually it may take a little more the bureaucratic red tape for you to get through. But when we decide that we're going to have collaborative partnerships, collaborative efforts to move forward with a common goal that no one can really disagree with, who's going to disagree with helping a nonprofit that is known in the nation globally, but helping those underserved, underrepresented, and typically undereducated? Who's going to argue with that? But some may. So when that pushback if that pushback presents itself, what better ally to have in the truly mutually beneficial collaborative effort to come to the table with you than the Mayor Williams administration, who's fully committed to that. I want to go back to the gentleman's question earlier about what sets this administration apart. Mayor Williams does not take any meetings outside of those for the community members on Friday. Her schedule's blocked, so there's not going to be any dinners. There's not going to be. Sorry, if this was scheduled, she's not here now, but she definitely would not have been here on a Friday, because she's in the office welcoming the community in and truly engaging with them. It's our dress down day, so there's no representatives. You're really getting the administration at that point, grassroots, in the office, in a true interaction. It's a beautiful thing to see. And I didn't see that in previous administrations to the degree that is being done in terms of being a one day, totally dedicated. She barely talks to us sometimes. She's like, well, we got to get to the next meeting, So it's one of those things where she's truly committed. So the Mayor Williams the candidate that you witness going door to door is that same person, all the time, but especially on Friday. And, ma'am?
Yeah, I was just curious, can you talk a little bit about, so you talked about going out and listening to different...
I'm sorry?
You talked about going out and listening to the different community needs. I think that's amazing. All of us as leaders in big organizations, the city's a huge organization, need to prioritize. What process are you working through to listen to those needs and understand what are you using as your North Star or your mission to prioritize as you hear those needs come in?
So, of course, a great question. So what are we doing as an administration after the listening sessions and engagement with the community to ensure that we're prioritizing those needs as they come in, or those suggestions, thoughts, and or ideas as they come in? Well, that's why there's many of us. In terms of we're an administration of many, of course with one leader, but an administration of many. And what we do respectfully is we have those conversations, and we in essence become advocates for for what we hear, networking with what our charges are. So for example, the equity and inclusion piece. Whenever I'm listening to these community meetings or engaging with the community, I can hear loud and clear where I hear about inequalities, where I can hear loud and clear about social justice. I can hear loud and clear about workforce and needs around health, a public health office. I can hear loud and clear about feeling like, systemic oppression and or racism is a real deal. And so I would go back and I would just simply advocate in my weekly reports that we turn in as cabinet members to the mayor. Here are some thoughts and ideas that I have that I think you should consider. And it's predicated upon what we've heard over the last week. And so we do weekly reports. So it's predicated upon the meetings that I've had. It's predicated upon, just newsflash. I'm still a resident, there's one guy left. He's 17, he's well behaved. You can have him if you like him. No, I wouldn't give him away. He might be watching this. But, being a parent in this school district, who goes to the school district, being a parent in this community, still living in the community, is, it's rough. The real needs, I had a 19-year-old cousin, pass away yesterday, overdose. So when we talk about, really serving the community, it's not just lip service. Everybody knows about the tragedy that, Mayor Williams suffered, in terms of, violence in our community. So it's nothing that we're going to come in here and talk about violence and, we can't relate to. It's nothing, I'm a, Hall Manor guy. I was born, when I moved here from Jersey, I'm Southside, 38 Hall Manor, 15 and a half years. So my whole thing is I went from Hall Manor to City Hall, and I wasn't the best thing in Hall Manor. People advocated for me. People were instrumental in my bringing outside of, my home. I talk all the time about being a product of a 16-year-old unwed couple, born January 22nd, 1973, a Monday, the same day abortion was legalized. So I know there's a bigger plan for me. I clearly understand to whom much is given, much is required. And it's not only me, is what I'm saying. I am just one of the individuals that Mayor Williams has brought in to her administration that fully understands our greatness. And our greatness, in the words of Dr. King, everyone can be great. How? Because greatness is predicated upon service to others. So we understand in this administration, we take it serious in terms of how we serve with character and integrity, ethics and morals. And that determines how great this administration will be. Not only committed, but how great. And that greatness, again, is predicated upon service to others. And so that's why, I was thrilled to be able to come here to talk to Leadership Harrisburg, an organization that is, committed to serving, committed to, somewhere up there, I know, somewhere, there we go. Diverse, right? So, it's one of those things where we can go out and we can, put on our fine, clothing, and we can, have our black tie and, gowns and galas and all that, but we still have to walk back out there. And did we leave that day, when we leave the office, or we leave the Goodwill, or we leave United Way, or we leave wherever it is we're leaving from, did we leave that space better off than what we found it? Only for that day by day, because tomorrow's not promised. So you have to, do that daily. So we have the titles, we have these positions, but remember, our task is to make sure we empower the position and not be empowered by the position. Next question. That was a long way around. I have an hour, so I gotta go. No, not anymore, right? So, yeah.
Can you talk about, not everybody lives in the city of Harrisburg, but we like to take a regional approach because the city of Harrisburg is the heart of our region, and the success of the city of Harrisburg affects every municipality around us, every township around us. So can you kind of articulate how the administration is approaching the role of the city of Harrisburg, not only for the residents of the city, which come first and foremost, but as the heartbeat of the entire capital region?
Well, let me just say this. When I speak in terms of Harrisburg, I am talking from a regional standpoint, because as goes the city, so goes the region. As goes the region as its capital city, so goes the Commonwealth, which is the Keystone State. And as goes the Keystone State, so goes the nation, because we unlock the potential of our entire nation is the way I look at it. So for me, in my previous life with the coalition, as you can read about, I used to always, go out to the eastern and western parts of the state. And every time we get there, it's like, oh yeah, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and even Erie started, and Allentown started, like superseding us. And I was, kind of back in my, about 160 pounds ago, my athletic days, I would get a little, ramped up. And I'm like, well, do you realize, like, we're the capital city? Like, whenever anything needs to get done, they come here. Have you ever noticed these buildings down this way? The Capitol, it's in the city, And so I would always tell them, from now on, when federal dollars come to our borders, instead of it, my focus is to make sure instead of it making that Y, going to Philly and Pittsburgh, we're going to make sure that Y turns into an I, comes right up through the capital city. And the only way we're able to do that is from a regional approach, because we can't do it with merely 50,000 or a shade under during the traditional day, not talking about the work day where we can grow and double in size because of the office buildings, et cetera. And so we have strong relationships and strong ties. As you see, we talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, if you notice, one of the mayor's top things that she talked about in her first 76 days, now today, day 86, is the diversity plan, the disparity study. And the disparity study initially, and I have two hats on at this point, I also sit on Impact Harrisburg's board, which was a nonprofit that was created when we were avoiding the bankruptcy, and certain dollars came in and had to be set aside to make sure that the revitalization of this region, hence Harrisburg City as the anchor in the region, the revitalization had funding in concrete projects that could really spur development, large and small economic development projects, as well as infrastructure projects. And so I'm proud to say, one of the things that we knew were necessary to address not only the economy at that time, but the future of the economy, the future workforce, and understanding inclusivity at the same time, simultaneously, was that we would need a disparity study. And so we started this language about having a disparity study probably going on 3 years ago. And it was because our community was really changing. Our community, meaning our region, was really changing. And so we can't talk about not being able to retain good people if we're not giving them a reason to stay. And so one of the major reasons that people stay in a region and a region grows, especially a county, is education, right? Young people, and or the opportunities for larger corporations to come in and do business and hire. And so you're able to sustain a family. And so what we did was we formulated not only a partnership relationship, mending fences with the county commissioners, but we also have a relationship with the Harrisburg Regional Chamber. Mr. Ryan Unger is great over there. Shout out to Ryan. We had a relationship over the years with Dave Black as well to certain degrees. So mending and or strengthening those economic engines in the region has been a large part of what Mayor Williams has been able to do, you know, in less than 86 days, in less than 76 days. It was like immediately, you know, there was, as we all know, that honeymoon period, whether it's a dating cycle and or an election of a new administration. So you have to take advantage of that right away. And she was out of the box running, you know, and that led us down the path of instead of $125,000 apiece to go towards a systemic change tool, which is this disparity study, that goes along the lines of full inclusivity from a legally defensible position. From it being $125,000 apiece, the county came in, and now it's $83,333.33. 3 ways, you know. So just that show of commitment and collaboration alone will go a long way. So when we talk about the region, again, having Ryan Unger at the table, Impact Harrisburg, we just had a retreat at the Harrisburg Regional Chamber in Creedick this past Friday, at which we brought stakeholders in the room. We talked about, and I believe I have one booklet here, the project, and I'll leave it with you. The projects that Impact Harrisburg has completed or helped fund and monitor through $500,000 large economic development grants and or infrastructure grants around. And let me go back to the infrastructure grants for Impact Harrisburg. Only 2 entities qualified for the infrastructure grants for obvious reasons. That was CRW and the city of Harrisburg. And then one of the things that we decided was they're not going to compete for grants, same place, bring them in together, let's have a collaborative plan put together in terms of how to spend these dollars and the multimodal, the things that you see going on that you can actually touch, whether it's 7th Street, whether we're talking about the Harrisburg Transportation Center that is being upgraded, whether you're talking about Marshall Square, you know, when you're leaving out of the city. These are opportunities that city residents have now to have transportation, or you're talking about capital area transit to really get out in other places, sometimes outside of the county, to really experience job opportunities and or career pathways that are not necessarily limited if they don't have that transportation, if they don't have that support that, you know, previous administrations didn't have the resources to do and or did not prioritize transportation and or, you know, health equity and supportive relationships with the Hamilton Health Centers of the world or Penn State Health or AmeriHealth Caritas and bringing them in to truly address health disparities from a regional standpoint. We have a relationship with Department of Health, Health Equity Office. So they appointed me on there, but it's not about me, it's not about the mayor. We can now go to our equity roundtables and ask their opinions and ask, you know, would you like to sit on this board? And then we can engage you from that direction. And then again, bi-monthly, it's a large group meeting, individually, the second Tuesday of every month, based on committee meetings.
Questions? Can we take I do have, yeah, and it kind of leads in a little bit with what Una was sharing. So you've mentioned the buildings around, which generally I think are still fairly vacant because I don't know if the state has have they fully come back on 5 days a week for their employee base?
I don't know if all have. I know a good majority has.
It has? Okay.
You know, based on my knowledge, you know, interacting with people.
You know, we are coming out of what we hope we're coming out of the COVID time period. And I mean, obviously there's been a real shift though within the downtown portion of the city with respect to businesses and, you know, with that lack of people who were here for the last couple of years, there's definitely been some impact to the business side. So I am kind of curious with respect to, what are some of the things that you are looking at? Because what you just described was great. I mean, I really, with that collaboration that you have with the regional chambers and CREDIC, and but there, it seems to me that the more we build up around the city, the more we can bring in so that you can do all of the good works that you're talking about too. So I was kind of curious, like, what is the positioning that the mayor may be taking around growth in the city for different avenues, and not just restaurants and those types of things, but maybe I just was looking, at the innovation sign here, and are there incubators of that you may be pursuing over the course of the next couple of years?
So, great question again. And what are some of the things that we're doing aside from understanding that we have the basics to address, in essence? What are we doing forward thinking, being innovative and welcoming so that businesses are truly recovering as well as we're saying the city is? So as you know, and I'll go back to, and I'm wearing these dual hats and that's probably part of the reason that I'm in the administration. So when you look at the neighborhood stabilization grants that we gave out to mom and pop shops, if you will, local businesses in the city, we understood that one of the things that we could not do from an Impact Harrisburg standpoint and working closely with the city was to forget about keeping the lights on of those businesses that were currently, in the mix of all of this, whatever this may have been at the time. And so there were innovative ways that we at first but to those businesses that could show that they were in the city, that they were operational, and that they had a need, whether that was rent, whether that was supplies, whatever it was, to keep their doors open under the leadership of, Impact Harrisburg. We provided grants, $5,000 grants. And you can please do look up the Impact Harrisburg board. There's currently Sheila Dow Ford is the executive director, Gloria Martin Roberts is the chair, and there's various other individuals, on the board that has a plethora of professional experiences that comes to the table. So with our administration now, we have that type of relationship with the entity outside of the city government that, of course, again, could sometimes be bogged down with bureaucratic red tape, to be able to go out and really help businesses survive. But then beyond the survival point is how do they thrive, how do they grow? And so with that's where the collaborative partnerships come in at, through relationships that we've built, not only business to business, but from a regional standpoint. So when we talk to a CREDIC, when we talk to diversity coalition leaders throughout the state and other administrations, quite frankly, getting best practices, ideas, and policies, and where they're getting their resources from, we're able to then come back and say, for a business growth downtown, or for a business growth on Allison Hill, or in Uptown Harrisburg, here are some best practices. And let's not forget this, we are being recorded, but I'm gonna give it to you first, okay? So I named those equity committees, but there's one committee left, and that's gonna be the Financial Equity Committee. And that Financial Equity Committee is gonna engage bankers, the banks, the lending institutions. Because we can have all these grand ideas, we can have, the things that, we've talked about previously, but if we don't have the resources in a continuum to make sure that these ideas, thoughts, and needs aren't merely seeded, but taken care of and nurtured in the way that they should go, it's all for naught. And so the final piece is the Financial Equity Committee that's going to be headed up by someone you probably heard of, a great mentor of mine, Mr. Brian Hudson, that ran Pennsylvania Housing and Finance Agency for years, financial guru, and sits on various bank boards. So just engaging individuals like Mr. Hudson, and there's several banks that have already called to ask to be engaged with the administration. So we're going to be moving that direction mid-April for that committee. So that'll be something else that you'll hear coming out of the administration. And again, these committees that were put together was based on the interaction that we had and the feedback we were receiving when we were having community meetings. There's space for growth. If there's some things that you all think in this room should be turned into a committee and or joining a committee or working with a committee, I'll submit your names to the chair of those committees, and by all means, I'm sure, your thoughts and ideas will be welcome. So again, that is not just a Harrisburg thing, but we talk about, again, I try to talk in generalities. When I say Harrisburg, we are the capital city, so I mean the region, I mean the Commonwealth. We run this state, is the way I look at it. All right, we don't have a pro football team and basketball team. All right, we have the Senators. Well, we have the Cougars. That's right. We have the Harrisburg Cougars and the Senators. So, no, but yes, ma'am.
So, my name is Lori Reese-Mahay. I'm the Executive Director for Theater Harrisburg. And we're, interestingly, just outside of Harrisburg. But I'm new to the region as well. I am about 4 or 5 months here. And I just wanted to sort of say another sector that I want to also make sure continues to come to the forefront are the arts. The biggest reason personally was that's actually what drew me to this area. So it's another way I think that people might be drawn to this region in a way that's not fully even known or noticed, I would say. One of the things that really impressed me, I accidentally drove through this area, and aside from the beautiful view on North Front Street, I started looking to see, well, I wonder if they have a theater here. And before I knew it, I was running on pages and pages, and the orchestra and the ballet, and then we have Theater Harrisburg, which is 96 years old. It's one of the oldest community theaters in the nation. And aside from us, there are all of these tiny but incredibly important community theaters in each of these different communities around the region that I would love to continue to see discussions around really supporting, especially some of those smaller theaters that are specifically their volunteer-run nonprofit organizations just to serve the communities that they're inside of. So I don't know if there's been a lot of discussion specifically about the arts, but I just wanted to speak as a sort of advocate in the room, I guess, that's something I would love to continue hearing more about plans in that area.
Point noted, and I'll take that back. In all candor, we have not. There's been generalized discussion because we recognize one of the businesses, one of the newer spaces, we'll say, is New Easy Gallery, right down across from the Broad Street Market. A phenomenal place. When you talk about cultural rich, it's easily accessible, especially on the bus line, et cetera. But there can definitely be more. As you know, what we have is not enough, and I agree with you. As an educator, 14 years in classroom and administration, I value the learning styles. I value the fact that not everyone is going to be tunnel focused on certain career pathways. And so it was disheartening to me, when the Harrisburg School District, and I'm speaking specifically to Harrisburg now as an alumni, when there's ever budget talks or discussions, not the current administration, but in the past, there's 2 things that they always go after: the VOTEC and the arts. I mean, those are 2 ways to be self-sufficient for life, and it is a natural God-given gift and talent and or something you're busting your behind to work at, becoming very good at. Into the sentence was a preposition as an English major, shouldn't have did it. Anyway, so, the things that I'm saying is, we have to definitely be more active and intentional listeners. And so I'm hearing you loud and clear, so great question. And don't be surprised if you'll be receiving a call. Get your card as chair, being volunteered to be chair of the Arts Committee, Equity Committee. So, yeah, definitely. No, but that's great. I mean, CASA right here, when we start talking about, opportunities, especially not for those of us more seasoned in the room, especially our young people. The whole thing about there's nothing for them to do, so there's destructive behavior going on. First of all, I don't subscribe to that. There's always something for them to do that's not destructive. The other side is they do need something to do that they're fully engaged with and interested in and not just dumped upon them. And the arts is definitely one of those things.
What would you like to say to us as a closing statement? Is there something that you want everyone in here to kind of hear from you at the end.
Well, I just think, again, first of all, thank you again for the invite. And on behalf of the Williams administration, we are leaving you with knowing, hopefully, that we are truly open, transparent, and willing to be engaged, because we are just a foundation that was blessed to be in the position that we are in now as servant leaders, but we don't know it all. And we make decisions based upon the best information readily available to us at that time. If there's other information out there that you believe is going to help us continue to enhance this administration's leadership of the region, to your point earlier, not only the city government, but the region and the state, we're open. I can give you my information right now, aside from what's in the book, because I believe that is still referencing the Diversity Coalition, which I still, I don't lead it anymore because of the potential appearance of conflict, but I am still helping with membership on that. I just can't leave it. It's our baby. We helped birth that thing almost for a decade. So my city phone number direct to my desk is 717-255-3015. And my direct email is ksingleton, that's KSINGLETON, at Harrisburg, spelled all the way out, PA.gov. And so I would just leave you with be intentional in terms of service, and clearly understand that we are called to be in the various positions that we're in, to empower the position and not be empowered by the position. And our job is to make sure that we always remain committed to serving the masses and not merely the chosen few. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to interacting as we move forward. Thank you.
Just a note of appreciation for you here. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right.